We continue to stay on top of breaking news out of Washington, D.C. The U.S. Supreme Court just ruling that former President Donald Trump can remain on the 2024 ballot in Colorado. And this comes one day ahead of Super Tuesday, when presidential primary elections will be held in more than a dozen states. Joining us now from Washington, D.C. is our own Doug Luzader. Doug, good morning to you. Obviously, a landmark ruling here for the Supreme Court. So does this decision clear him from wrongdoing in the insurrection overall?
Well, look, we were waiting for this ruling to come out because tomorrow, of course, is Super Tuesday, and the court kind of telegraphed its punch to some degree here because the justices during oral arguments seemed kind of skeptical of what Colorado did here. The Colorado Supreme Court determined that the former president's name should be struck from the ballot because, in their minds, he engaged in an insurrection. Now, the Supreme Court didn't really even get to this question of whether this was an insurrection or not. Instead, they said that states really can't do this, that if you allow this to happen, this would become kind of a patchwork approach to how elections are carried out. You would have blue states kicking Republicans off ballots. You'd have red states kicking Democrats off ballots. That you just can't have that kind of chaos. So instead, they've really left this up to Congress. Now, this does deal specifically with the Colorado case, but like everything else the Supreme Court does, it's a question of precedent, and this would seem to kind of put a final nail in the coffin of other state efforts to remove Trump from ballots, and that includes efforts in states like Illinois and Maine, for instance, that were really waiting for this decision to come down.
And the decision apparently has no impact on the 4 ongoing criminal cases that Trump is facing now, including the federal election subversion case and some of that same conduct surrounding January 6th, 2021. What about the claim of immunity? That's an interesting one, and that's one that the Supreme Court will hear later this year.
Yeah, that's right. It's a completely separate issue. This is a question of whether the president enjoys broad, potentially criminal immunity for actions that he took while in office, for official actions, according to how the Trump team frames this. That's something that the court is still yet to decide. We haven't heard arguments in that, and we obviously haven't had a decision yet in that case. That, however, at the very least, is going to slow down the progress of that trial.
Nikki Haley just won her first primary in Washington, D.C. Does this decision, do you think, ease the mind of Republican voters who may have been hesitant to vote for Donald Trump in the primaries because of what the Supreme Court could decide? This coming, of course, right before Super Tuesday.
Well, if you narrow this down to a state like Colorado, for instance, the former president's name was going to be on the ballot regardless. I guess you could make the argument that, if the court had decided to rule against Trump, then anyone who voted for him in tomorrow's Super Tuesday election in Colorado, that vote would essentially not be counted, is probably how that would have transpired. But ultimately, his name will be there, and it will move forward, and people that want to support him can do so in Colorado with the knowledge that he does have the potential to win delegates there.
Doug Luzader, as always, we appreciate you walking us through this, reporting live from Washington, D.C. Thank you.